I always say if God intended us to air our dirty laundry, he would not have created a washing machine and dryer. Why would you want there to be probate or guardianship where everyone is going to know your business and have the ability to make claims to do so? Wouldn't you rather keep things private?
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Planman. Finance, insurance, and more.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein, and I believe each and every one of us needs to have financial planning in their lives. Today, I'm being joined by Pamela Higer-Polani, who's an estate planning attorney. Did I say it right?
You did.
Oh, whew. Pam's an estate planning attorney I've been working with for a bunch of years here. We love collaborating together and helping people solidify their financial plan when it comes and ties into their estate planning. So Pam, welcome to Ask the Planman. Let's jump right in. Time is precious for everybody. Why is having an estate plan so important in today's world?
Well, first of all, I want to repeat what you just said. Because Bruce, I really, really enjoy working with you. I really enjoy having you as a member of the community that I am involved in as well. You're a participant, you're a support sponsor. You really put your money where your mouth is. Yeah. And I love that, the way that you are is exactly how I want people who can represent my clients as well. And so I enjoy having that working relationship with you. And I thank you very much for bringing me on. So what is it that I want people to know? As far as legal side of what you do, everybody needs an estate plan. Just like everyone should have a financial plan. As we get older, it's not more difficult. It's just a little more expensive. Right. We just need to invest in ourselves. We spend a lot of our times and lives investing in our children, in our spouses, in our parents, in everything and everyone except ourselves. So the first and only thing I would ever say to anyone is before you actually do anything for anyone, remember what it's like to be on an airplane. And when the flight attendant says, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you help others, that is a very good life lesson. You cannot help anyone. If the glass is empty, you cannot pour from it. So taking care of yourself, your legal side, your financial side, extremely important.
So I find the biggest challenge in the world of planning, and again, it doesn't have to just be financial planning, but planning in general is apathy. How do you embrace and deal with apathy when clients just don't feel it's that important or they can't justify the money? Obviously there's dollars involved in it, but as I tell everybody, Pam's going to get you back way more in savings than anything she could ever possibly charge you. And every attorney and every accountant should be operating in that same vein. That we're not here to be a negative impact to the bottom line. It should be a positive. So how do you deal with that? How do we get clients to not be so, I can't be bothered?
It's a really good question. I tell every client that calls me and potential client that calls me, forget that I'm an attorney. Everything that you think about attorneys and whether it's a CPA, attorney, financial planner, put that all aside. And remember that my first and foremost name is counselor. I'm a counselor at law. And I tell people I am one step up from being a social mental health counselor. And it's true. Nowhere else in any other profession, if you go into a really nice restaurant and they provide you a beautiful meal to your specifications and beyond, do you then turn to the chef and say, wait a second, if I didn't eat the vegetables, can I get a discounted rate on my bill? But in the attorney world, I hear that a lot, right? Well, if I do my will myself and can I just have you look at it for me? And then you could tell me if it's okay. And of course, I can't do that. The one thing about hiring an attorney and the reason why it is expensive is there is so much regulatory provisions going on behind the scene. What you don't know is all the compliance issues that you as a financial planner, myself as a legal advisor, and as well as a CPA on the accounting side has to do in order for us to be able to do our job through the state of Florida or any state. And those are the things that people forget. When you go online and you're dealing with somebody who has never even had a bachelor, of science or arts degree, and doesn't really know you, you're getting advice from someone who doesn't have to follow those regulations. And so you get what you pay for, unfortunately. There's nothing to beholding them to do a professional job for you. And from the beginning to the end, that is my job, is really to not only make sure that you have what you're trying to do to accomplish, but also to fall within the compliance that I have to handle with the state of Florida. And there is a lot. So you have an issue, you always have a place that you can actually address your concerns. And that is the difference between hiring an attorney and not. Likewise, when you just do paperwork, I tell people all the time, because I do the transactional side. I do wills, trusts, estate planning, all those kind of things that really kind of go hand in hand with what your clients do with you, right? But people don't hire me for a document. That is not what you're hiring an attorney to do. You're hiring me for my guidance, my expertise, and my knowledge all the way through. That's what you're retaining me for.
It's the strategy. It's not just, it's preparing the blueprint. People
Right.
say, you're not paying me for the 3 minutes it took. You're paying me for the 30 years of my knowledge that I've acquired and studied to be
And
that
3 degrees on my wall, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
and also
100%.
the CLE, the continued legal education classes I'm required to take, all those kind of things, right? So that's really what you're paying for. And you're right, that can make a bill heftier, but it's also, it's insurance. It's protecting you all the way with several layers. Some people, I actually tell them, you're right. I don't think you really should do estate planning. It's probably out of your price range, just like you shouldn't go to that really expensive restaurant. It's not something that is really within your means. I get that. And there are definitely less expensive, alternatives. They're not as good as possibly doing it the proper way, but it's better than doing nothing. And I give free advice all the time. Before we started this, you asked me, what kind of free advice could I give? And I would say, if nothing else, take advantage of the fact that many attorneys like myself who do the transactional and litigation side of probate, estate planning, trust, and all the things that go along with that, call us. Do a free consultation with me. Even if at the end of the day, I have a client who says, you know what, that's just not for me right now. I don't want to do it. I'll think about it later. Okay. But at least I've had the opportunity to provide an education. That's my job as a counselor of law.
What I was going to say is people, again, not to be cliche, people don't know what they don't know. And so as much
What you
as
don't
they
know
might,
can hurt you.
way beyond. My line is, you don't know what you don't know. That's why you got to keep watching my show. But
I like that.
but here's the where I'm coming from is if they don't ask for a consult, they don't get educated on what they don't know. And it's not that you're going to fix their problems. It's going to help you identify their problems for them. i.e., I go for a massage because my neck hurts and they start hitting my hip and I'm screaming in pain, but my hip wasn't bothering me till they started poking it, right? And now they spend 15 minutes rubbing out that knot in my lower back that's triggering my hip.
Thank
right?
you for sharing the insight into your personal life. I appreciate it.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So you and I don't have hip pain. No, I do. It's
I do.
But my point is you're opening the opportunity for them. And what I want to encourage the listener to do, and that's, we're trying to overcome the apathy, right? It's, what is she going to try and sell me? And, I don't really understand. Like people,
You know who my best clients are?
Those.
My best? The ones who had to go through the nightmare of a guardianship or probate, because they know what happens when people don't see me. I compare myself to like a wellness doctor. You go in for a checkup every year. The doctor can catch whatever it might be early before there's a real problem, right? If you're pre-diabetic, the doctor can see that and get you on a good, healthy plan so that you don't end up having to take insulin and possibly having to amputate a leg or lose your vision, right? Or your life. I'm similar. When people see me, I go through it just like you would for the financial side. And I say, hey, this is what I think you really should have right now. And if you do it now, it's going to be a little bit of a pinch of time, pinch of money, little discomfort, not bad, right? And I promise I'll shower that day. It'll be a very pleasant experience. Okay. But you wait for me. and you don't do basic estate planning, or you use someone, because they were cheaper, right? You can always find somebody, by the way, always, right? I love that tattoo commercial I always see, of a guy saying, yeah, I can do this tattoo. And then instead of like putting a picture of a flower, you look like you have like a big weed on your neck. Okay. So, but there's always somebody who can do something cheaper and less expensive. Whether or not they're going to do it right and guide you all the way through from beginning, during, and after, that's the other question. But then it's going to cost you a lot more money. Probate and guardianship is extremely burdensome, not just in terms of money, but emotions as well. And for people who say, oh, what do I care? They'll deal with that when it happens. You'll care. You're going to care a lot if it ends up being that the person who is appointed by the court isn't someone you wanted or isn't someone you trust and doesn't do the job that you would want them to do. You're going to care a lot. And if you don't have a lot of people on your team, then you really need to start looking out for yourself now, because you're unfortunately going to fall victim to a whole lot of abuse as well as fraud. My job is trying to keep you from that. As we get older, as I said, nobody wants to look at these things. But my tagline is, before your troubles hit the fan, make sure to do your estate plan, right?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, make sure you call Pam.
Oh, well, that's the given. But honestly, I really don't even advocate for my own services. I don't think I'm the right fit for every client. I definitely have had times where I think maybe another colleague, I'll bring them in and I'll say, hey, I think you'd be a better fit. My goal is to find the person for you that is really going to fit with you, because estate planning, like financial planning, doesn't mean you just come into the office, sign the documents, and you're done. It is an ongoing process, and you need to find somebody who you can relate to, who you feel comfortable with. It's why I travel to my clients. I think you do this also, right? Do you travel to clients? Sure, right? So I learned early in my practice, people feel more comfortable in their homes, right? So even though I have an office in Boca, I'm happy to travel to clients often, and I do. Why? In fact, I just did it. I had a client who came into my office very nervous. Her children were making her very nervous. It was obviously not a good situation. And we didn't feel comfortable having her sign documents that day. So I told the family, let's stop. Let's reconvene. And I will meet at your mom's house. And when we went to the house, the mom was like so different. She was so relaxed. She was much more, even though I don't think I personally, look intimidating. I always say, I look like Barbie, but I fight like a superhero, right? So I don't think I look intimidating. I do it on purpose. I try to wear color. I try to be bubbly. And I know we're talking about very unpleasant things. No one wants to talk about the end of days. And certainly no one wants to talk about the end of days and being incapacitated, being in a permanent vegetative state, organ donation, burials. These are not happy, cheery topics on a pretty day, right? But if we talk about it in your home, it's a little easier.
But it goes to the apathy we talked about earlier. So there's a good reason where apathy stems from, is the unpleasantness of people. It's the same with life insurance conversations, right? In the world of planning and insurance, why don't people buy life insurance? Well, I don't want to bet that I'm going to die. Newsflash, you are going to die. We just don't know when.
I love when people say, if I die, I'm like, yeah. Do you know something I don't know? Are you friends with Walt Disney? Are you going to do cryo? I want to know.
Cryogenics, yeah. We'll put your head in a box.
We can laugh about it because you and I deal with this a lot. But the truth is that's apathy. It's like, I actually wrote a whole thing about this. Remember David Letterman's top 10? I think he still does it. Does he still do it? No?
Well, he's retired, but yeah.
Well, it shows how much TV I watch. Okay. So congratulations, Dave. Go out of retirement.
Enjoy.
But the bottom line is remember the top 10? Like you would have like the top 5, top 10, whatever things.
Yeah.
And there's lots of reasons why people don't want to do estate planning. 1, it costs money. 2, they don't want to face their own mortality. 3, they don't think that they have anything that's worthwhile, right? And these are all hoops that you and I have to go through to help people understand why their greatest asset right now is themselves. You wake up in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror. That is your greatest asset. And as an adult, you have a responsibility not just to brush your teeth, which, and take a shower daily, which I hope you're doing. But the bottom line is, aside from all those other things with being an adult, this is one of them. And I'm, you know what?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go get a root canal either, but the pain drives them to do it, right? The pain of not doing your financial or estate planning is something that if once you feel it, it's too late. That's the problem. And you don't know if you haven't done it right or you haven't had a trusted advisor guiding you, doing it properly until it's too late. And so that's why it really behooves you to employ and find those who can really become a part of your circle. My greatest joy is my clients who become like family. They call me for everything. I check up on them because that's really what it should be. When you're taking advice from someone like yourself or myself, you want them to feel the trust. You want them to know you. I'm very public, as you well know. And people always say, oh, you share so much, because I want people to feel comfortable. I want them to know that I'm approachable, that they can share with me whatever it is. I hear a lot. I'm sure you hear a lot. Every family has something. And that's why going to a trusted advisor is so helpful, because we know how to navigate that. And we can hopefully get you to the point where you're going to want to be. And that's the goal. That's a great goal.
I've had numerous clients over the years, high net worth, certainly before they raised all the levels.
The exemptions.
Yeah, the exceptions. And it was astonishing how dismissive this particular client, and, we're talking $15-20 million type net worth. And, we were still at maybe the 1 and 2 million exemption level, not even at the fives. And the attitude was, I'll be dead. They could take care of it. And like you said, is you're not going to find out till after the fact. So his wife and kids are going to write a check for $10 million unnecessarily, when we could have protected that $10 million. And it's not that complicated. And
I take a different approach. You're right. Who cares? Your kids and wife, your third wife, who's younger than me, okay, who doesn't speak English as her first language. You're right. Who cares, right? It's your wealth. And when you die, it's their problem. Except that, well, first of all, everybody's going to know how much you were worth, what your debts were, what kind of person you were, what you did, because probate is very public, right? All those records are very public. But again, I don't really care about that. You know what I say to that client? Don't you like yourself? Don't you want until the very last moment for every part of your money to go for your care and only your care? If you don't care what happens after you die, fine. I agree. They're not my client. The person who has the money is sitting in front of me. They're my client. And my job is to protect them until the end of their life. So if she is not happy and she doesn't care about her husband or kids or whatever, or doesn't have husband and kids, and it's going to go to her sister and her sister's kids, and she's like, well, let them deal with probate. You're right. They're getting a boon. They're nobody's entitled to your money, whoever they are, not your children, not your spouse, nobody. Right. And anything they get, that's to me cream. You're so lucky if you get that. But take care of yourself. I've looked in the eye just like you have, and I think of this one woman. Oh, beautiful woman, took care of herself, coiffed from head to toe, obviously was doing everything to take care of herself, but she didn't want to sign estate planning documents. And when I pushed on her, she said, I just don't like to think about this. I don't want to deal with it. The money's going to go to so-and-so. What do I care? And I said, because it's for you, to protect you in your lifetime. A lot of what you and I do has nothing to do about just even accumulating wealth after life. It's about making sure that these people are being protected all the way through. The state of Florida is the number one state for fraud. And that's not a coincidence, because we are a very wealthy senior state. And people just don't seem to get that.
So when you say protect them, you're talking more about the trust work and protecting the assets from frivolous lawsuit? Like,
a lot of people will call me and they'll say, I need a will. And I have to explain to them what a will does and what it doesn't do. my thing is I don't even charge for a will when I discount the cost of it. When I'm doing a trust package, we'll do a will, but I'm really encouraging a lot of people to do trust. When you hold your money in trust, then if you can't manage your money yourself as the trustee, when we first create it, and you get to a point where you no longer can do that, then you have a built-in fiduciary duty imposed on the person who accepts the role after you as your successor trustee to handle and administer your financial affairs the way that you would want them to be administered. So if you're incapacitated and you don't have a trust, you're talking about a guardianship in the state of Florida getting involved, the money and time with doctors, as well as just the intervention from state of what that means. I wouldn't wish that on a dog most times.
Interesting. So you're giving me a different twist, and I thank you for this. Is I'm always looking at the end execution of distributing the assets and the taxation that goes with it, because we'll do the ILIT work and right. Other things to help with the taxation. But you're preempting this, so I hope my listener is paying attention here. What Pam's talking about, it's not. My expectation was talking about the final distribution type of work, but you're actually saying when people are getting down the road where they can't do certain things for themselves anymore. I'm the financial manager in the household, and I sit there going, if I keel over tomorrow, God forbid, yes, my wife's going to get X, Y, and Z, but she has no idea what to do. We were in Cabo. We went on a trip to Cabo and a conference, and I'm sitting there going, you hear about the guy who has a keels over on his vacation, right? I'm like, how would she get me home? I said to her, like, who would you call first? Like, what would you do? Like, I start drilling her on. Well, you got to call your brother-in-law. You got to get my body home.
No, I tell people, bodies on the floor, call me. Because honestly, that's when a lot of fraud happens. That's a lot of issues happen. And I know how to deal with all those issues because I've dealt with it for so many other clients. I know exactly who they should call first. I know exactly what the procedures are, and I can put them in touch with everyone. But this is why you need to have a circle of trusted advisors, right? I give every client my direct cell phone number once they, retain me. And I tell them, listen, that's what this is for. You have an emergency situation. There should be blood on the floor, though, if you're calling me at certain times, right? And it should be yours. Otherwise, it will be yours. You call me at 4 a.m. on a Saturday night, I'm probably not going to like you very much. But I deal with a lot of clients in hospice. That's not really, though, when you want to get involved. The worst for me is when they say, if I'm diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I'll deal with it then. No, because then that window has closed or is closing very rapidly. I cannot have you sign anything once I understand that you're incapacitated. If I even think that there's any type of incapacitation, it's a whole nother level of what has to happen in order for you to sign a document, if you could even do so. So even if you understood what you were doing somewhat, just even a little bit, I'm not going to risk that license it took me 30 years to get to do that. And now you're looking at guardianship, where somebody has to take control and be court appointed, and it's a public proceeding. And again, I always say, if God intended us to air our dirty laundry, he would not have created a washing machine and dryer. Why would you want there to be probate or guardianship where everyone is going to know your business and have the ability to make claims to do so? Wouldn't you rather keep things private? Even though I share a lot of my life publicly on social media as well, there are some things that are very private to my husband and I. What was not private was when I talked about my son. And you're talking about end of life, and I'm talking about what happens in your lifetime right now. My youngest son, who might make it to 22 if I don't kill him beforehand, he decided to have a surgery all on his own. And we said, don't do this, come home for the surgery. And he said, I'm fine. I'm 21, 21, I'm invincible, right? And he had the surgery and he was okay. And I had asked him, is anybody going to be with him, though, during his recovery? He said, yes, my girlfriend. Well, he didn't tell me, after the surgery, he was very cranky. And he sent the girlfriend home to her family and back in Tampa. So then he had a complication about a week after surgery because he didn't follow his doctor's orders. And he had nobody with him. And he started hemorrhaging from his throat. 21 years old, 6 hours away. I'm with clients when I find the news, when I find out. There was a lot of steps that happened between this. I'm not going to go into it. But the long and the short is he made a lot of mistakes. He did not take care of himself. And by the time he finally got into a hospital, he tried to take care of it again on his own. And at that point, once I knew what was going on, I contacted the hospital through my wonderful assistant, who I bless every day. Everybody should have a work wife. And she was able to get the document over to the hospital. And the moment he got there, he was like saying, if that's my mom on the phone, tell her I'm talking, I can handle this. And I said to the administrator, look at the document. The moment he entered your facility, he's lost the right to make any more medical decisions. I am taking over control as his healthcare surrogate because I made him sign this document at the age of 18. And I take this really seriously. And I tell people all the time, once you turn 18, your child turns 18, you might be paying their bills. That doesn't mean you're entitled to any information, financial or health. You better get your kids to sign these basic documents. I don't even care. There's a website called mamabear.com, I think. Get them to do something. I've seen the website. To be honest with you, I think it's lacking. I think you still should see an attorney for this because there's some things on that website that are not accurate. But I'd rather see people do something than nothing. And that's how genuinely I believe, whether you're 18 or 80, you have to have basic documents to protect you in your lifetime. And if you haven't done it, or it's been a long time since you've done it, you need to speak to somebody.
Well, Pam, you didn't just hit one out of the park, you hit two out of the park. And certainly being vulnerable and sharing that story with your son is just eye-opening. But I want the audience, my listener, to really hone in on what Pam just dropped. You know, I got my bell, you know, I don't have sound effects, but you know,
I like that
there's the nuggets you just gave and the way people need to readjust the way they look at estate planning, trust planning, working with a professional like Pam is beyond the end game, but all this other stuff that goes in, you know, for the other 90 years, right? Like we've got three boys. Okay. Our kids are a little bit older and Robin's certainly a helicopter mom with her son. He's 29 and she would want to know, and I will be telling her about the surrogate component because even at 29, he may still not know the type of decisions to be making for himself. God forbid he's in a crisis mode. And you darn tootin', she's going to want to be involved. If she's rushing to the hospital at 3 a.m, she's going to want to be able to make decisions. He doesn't have power of attorney for her. He doesn't have a medical, the stuff proxies for her. We have it. But
then you need to have a court sign off because just because you're a parent doesn't mean you have that right.
That's right.
Automatically whatsoever. Just like spouses. I dealt with a lot of different type of relationships from second marriages to same-sex marriages to you name it. Spouses do not have the right to make decisions for one another unless it's in writing. And, especially women seem to have, like older women seem to have a real issue with this. Like, can't my husband just make a decision? No. And going back to the financial part, because what you do is so important for our clients. Let's talk about that durable power of attorney that everybody talks about. And they sign it like, sure, I'll sign a durable power of attorney. It is the most, to me, I think a durable power of attorney is a very important document, but you need to be very careful on the parameters and to who you give that to. It gives someone the unfettered ability to make a decision for you the moment you sign it in the state of Florida. It is not a springing power, meaning like if I'm incapacitated. No, it is happening right there, right then. And someone could literally, sell your property, go into your bank accounts, and your recourse will be zero. So for all those moms who trust their children not to do this, it happens. But I want to do on the flip side, since we talked about kids for a moment. You have a 29-year-old stepson. No one likes to think about this, but I think I lost my best friend at 52 years age. She died of ovarian cancer within about a year and a half. No one could have she was the healthiest, most peppy, live person. Imagine me, but shorter. Okay. And, and she was lovely. And her parents both had incredible health concerns. And yet here we are almost 8 years later, and they're still with us and Renee is not. No one has a magic ball, a crystal ball that, that can tell you this is when it's going to happen. And the worst part is, unfortunately, and you know this, who is the number one age group to get into traffic accidents? Who's the number one age group to have opiate drug abuse issues? So if you have a child that has some kind of issue, how are you paying for their rent, their mortgage? How are you going and doing anything financially for them if they don't already have a power of attorney signed up for themselves? This is a big issue. Until they get married, I would encourage every parent to drag their child in by the ear and get them to sign documents, because it happens, and it happens a lot more than you would imagine. Thank you.
We're ringing the bell. I got a lot of bell ringing. This is good stuff. This is great stuff. Look, the show's all about my intent. This is our third year doing Ask the Planman. Thank you.
Third year.
It's proactivity. Thank you. Yeah. It's about being proactive. Planning is proactivity. So I'm all about promoting proactivity, and everything that you've discussed today. And I hope people go back, rewind it, listen to this, to the things that Pam has bestowed on us and some of these strategies that we're talking about. This is for everybody. You don't need a $50 million net worth to do what she's talking about. You need $5 net worth. You need to have these things in place so that you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your children. Robin's never going to stop being a mom. This kid's going to be 97 and she's still going to be mothering him. And so if he needs help and he can't act on his behalf, she needs to have those documents. And again, I'm doing this 38 years. You open my eyes. This is great information for today.
Well, do I have time to throw in one more little nugget on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
My favorite client, if you close your eyes and you thought about what's your favorite client. Okay, close your eyes. Who's your favorite client? I know the answer to mine. What's your ideal client? For me, it's a young family starting off with they have 2-3 kids under the age of 7, 10, whatever. And they're building their work and they're doing their thing. Mom and dad maybe both work, or mom's home, dad's home, one of them's home, right? Whatever the case might be, but they're growing. But they have 3 kids, 2 kids, 1 child. They're done. Their family is complete. And they have no estate planning. What happens to children in the state of Florida? Mom and dad don't die, but they go off on date night on Saturday. They both get severely injured and they're, in a rehab. Let's just put it that way. And they're not going to be coming home for a long time to those 3 kids. Grandma says, I'll take the babies. No. State of Florida, unless you have something in writing, will do a hearing through the Department of Children and Families. And teachers are told to report any instances where they think that there might be some kind of issue. So if all of a sudden grandma appears, but there's nothing in writing that gives grandma the authorization, that could be where the teachers of the children are going to become involved. Department of Children and Families is going to get involved. Put something in writing. If you have young children, I cannot begin to urge you to start thinking about what you're going to do. And if the parents do die and the kids are under 18, you don't want to have your children have their monies held by the court system and then given, if there's anything left over after the court takes their hefty fees, if there's anything left over for the kids to spend at 18. My experience at 18 was Maria Fernandez, who unfortunately was a person who had this happen. She was being raised by her aunt. Her mom and dad died before she was 18. She was being raised by her aunt. And at 18, she came into inheritance. So what did she do? She spent all the money on a car, got drunk, and wrapped it around the tree 2 weeks before graduation. That is not an ideal situation. This is why we set up trusts for children, because they cannot receive money until they're 18 at least. But I would encourage you to think past that. Think about, putting in parameters so that those children receive monies over time with other people watching out for them, supervising it. They'll always have monies for their care, but making sure. And if you have children, if you're a grandparent, what a wonderful gift to give not only for yourself, but for your children and grandchildren, to know that there'll be a legacy for them. The last thing I would say, let your life reflect, your death reflect your life. If you give charity now, if you're a philanthropic, you can set up something now so you can get acknowledged for those gifts and then have a beautiful gift to your favorite alma mater, religious institution, whatever it might, cause, whatever it might be, to stop Alzheimer's, breast cancer, whatever. Make something of your death reflect what your life is. Let it not be the last piece of paper that your kids say. Give them guidelines and say, this is what I want. That is what a good estate plan should do. And that is what an attorney can do for you. That is not something you get online.
For sure. Let me add on the comment about the Florida with the children and the minors and all of that, because my audience certainly is just not in Florida. In New Jersey is very similar. New York is very similar. So the majority of the states will fall in line with what Pam's describing here. And thus, certainly the necessity, and I used to say the same things at my retirement seminars, I would ask the audience who has grandkids. And, this was like a 55 and older crowd, and a lot of people raise their hands. And I'm like, so you know what? How many of you know whether or not your kids have a will and planning done? You've got minor children. Your grandchildren are at jeopardy. I said, so this year, instead of taking them out to dinner or a gift card or a family cruise, get them, pay for it to sit down with a Pam and get guardianship squared away and the things that we don't want to talk about, because you're not going to get those grandkids if, God forbid, something happened to your children. And so I would get on my soapbox a little bit in my retirement planning seminars to my audience to say, look, you may think you've got things covered, but I bet your kids don't. And so, that's
well, that's what makes you a great financial planner. Because this is what it takes. It takes a team of people to work together to really make aging work. And for me, anyone over 18 who has, the ability to sign documents should do something, even at a minimum. It doesn't cost a lot. I'm cheaper than a cell phone nowadays. So, my last
I don't know if that's going to be cell phones got expensive or your rates are pretty good.
I have a really expensive cell phone, but I try to be affordable, and, I work with every budget. I also offer something that I don't think other attorneys do for estate planning purposes only, which is I offer monthly payment plans without charging interest. I'm better than a credit card. That's so, nice. And I tell people all the time, you have to do all sides of it, from financial to legal to accounting. It really does take a team of people to make sure that you are aging the way you want to be.
Beautiful. So I know you were pressed for time. How can people reach you if they want to either get a consult or have a question or just want to reach out to you?
Clearly, you need to call. You need to call. The Plan Man. That's the way to go. Right?
Have them call me. All right, yeah. That's good. I'll bird dog for you. That's right. Fine.
I think first, if you haven't reached Bruce already, you can call me directly at 561-496-4222. 561-496-4222. And my email is my first name, Pamela, at lawphp.com. I am certainly everywhere. Look me up, Pamela Higer-Polani. I really am very involved in our community. I love where we live, and I try to reflect that. So, and again, call Bruce, because he's really, to be the first point I always say is if you don't have money, first get money. Right? First have some money. We don't want to make it so that you have estate planning, but nothing to live on.
Right.
So first make a living, and then talk about what you're going to do. But for a lot of college kids who are going off to college, parents, please make sure your kids have these done. When they go on campuses, any documents that you do on a campus, and I'm saying this because graduations are coming up, those documents are only good usually through the university system on campus. Beware. The moment your child goes to play slip and slide on a Saturday night after drinking 2 beers, and don't kid yourself, they do it all the time, and they break their collarbone and they're taken to an off-campus hospital, you will have no abilities to get their health information. Have them sign some basic documents before they go off to college.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. We're going to put your contact info in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
I learned a lot. I hope my listeners learned a lot here, regardless of what state you live in. Certainly, if you have minor children, you have adult children, you have children, you
Yes.
need to take under advisement some of the tips that Pam shared with us today.
And since you do have like tri-county clients, if you have property in the state of Florida, like your retirement home and you have, or a vacation home, and then you have your primary residence in New York, if you did call me, I would help you, find you an advisor in New York. If your main property is in Florida and your vacation home is still in New York, I can certainly help you. But you are certainly somebody who should be talking about a trust. You're not going to want to do probate in both states.
That's right.
So if you want your family to really remember you, don't do estate planning. They will curse you for a millennial.
Get your trust in place.
Yes.
Well,
don't
folks,
forget, before your troubles hit the fan, make sure to do your estate plan. Go ahead, say your tagline, Bruce.
You don't know what you don't know. That's why you got to keep watching the show and meeting people like Pam and myself here and get some good advice. Well, my tagline is, when you need some advice, always get it right. Come ask the plan man. So that's how I close the show. So it's time to close the show, Pam. I want to thank you so much for being with us today. I can't thank you enough for the amount of wisdom that you bestowed. Again, you took a 38-year veteran here in the space, having worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients, and I learned something today. So I know my audience definitely had to have gotten some good takeaways. So hopefully they'll reach out to us and want some assistance from us. I know I'll be talking to my wife later when we hang up. Folks, please like, share, subscribe today's episode. Come to planman.tv. Watch our YouTube channel. You can go back and see all our previous episodes. This is our third year recording our shows. We're in the 60s episodes now. We have issues and episodes on anything and everything you could think of financially, insurance related, investment related, financial planning, tax planning, now obviously estate planning, long-term care planning, business exit planning, weight loss planning. So plan. We want to be proactive. You can reach me as always at 844-PLANMAN. Go to planman.com. asktheplanman.com for our website. If you need some advice, always get it right. Come ask Pam and the Plan Man. Until next time, thank you so much for being with us, Pam.
Thanks, Bruce. Be well. Have a great day.
When you